I never expected that I would work in housing. Pinpoint, like what exactly is the core issue?
Working with people, it's more so about the people and less about the policy and the documents is what it seems like to you.
People are searching for this everywhere.
Every community has stories worth telling. Stories of people working towards a better future. Stories of people working behind the scenes and solving problems. But some stories, they start in places you might not even expect. Welcome to the For More Forum. My name is Dominic Carroll, the host, talking to people driving real change in our communities. On the For More Forum today, we've got the Senior Program Manager for Housing Stability at the Rocket Community Fund, Gwen Gell. And Gwen, your story seems to have all started inside of a farmer's market. Thank you for coming on the show first off. Can you kind of tell me what happened inside of that farmer's market?
Thanks, Dominic, for having me. Yes, so about 12 years ago, I was working in food security and working to connect residents to fresh produce in their neighborhood through an organization called Genesis Hope. While at the farmer's market, I distinctly remember meeting a woman who asked me, "Do you know of any resources to repair a roof?" And at that time, I did not. And my career path has been very circuitous, but that moment I think has been reflected many times over as I've gotten deeper into housing, and kind of has been my own bellwether for how the need for home repair has grown and has existed long before I entered into this space.
Can I ask you kind of why did that, I guess resonate with you as much as it did?
Somebody was looking for resources for home repair at a farmer's market. While that's an area where people can come together and gather and can be an exchange of information, it wasn't exactly the venue that I would anticipate getting that type of question.
100%.
So to me, it was a moment of realizing that people are searching for this everywhere, and it doesn't seem, at least at that time, that people could find the answers they were looking for or the support that they needed.
You almost became obsessed with housing and kind of all of its dimensions. Can you kind of speak to that obsession? When did it kind of turn from curiosity into more so a calling?
Well, my career has been very circuitous. It started with the interest in sustainability and food systems, but then the next best step for me, as I became more entrenched into the Detroit ecosystem, was learning more about the city, and I wanted to dive deeper into why was it planned this way? Why is it difficult for people to get around without a car? Why are there food deserts? And that led me to going to grad school, where I studied urban planning and urban design. And while I was in grad school, I also took a job at United Community Housing Coalition, where I was doing direct service. I was doing intake. I was talking with homeowners who were in need of home repair. This is actually when I started to work on the Make It Home program, talking to other people in the space who were also trying to connect residents with home repair resources, but having a really hard time doing that. Really got me deeper and deeper into the housing world. I never expected that I would work in housing, but now I can't imagine not working in housing.
But you brought up UCHC. Working with people, it's more so about the people and less about the policy and the documents is what it seems like to you, with people who are essentially fighting to just stay in their homes. What did that do for the foundation for the rest of your career with working with people and so on and so forth, with that being like the starting point for it?
I see. I think for me, housing is one, it's a human right. We are all entitled to live in a safe and healthy home. However, that doesn't always pan out in reality due to market pressures, due to supply issues, and it really comes down to a point where people can't access housing. And I believe that people will thrive and will be in a much better place if they have a safe place to call their home. In this moment, I see housing as a way to express many different expertise and disciplines in order to improve the quality of life for everyone. And then also always keeping it resident driven and resident focused. I care a lot about how this impacts Detroiters, how this impacts Clevelanders, and I love to see the execution and the things happen as a result of the work that we do.
A thing that I've kind of picked up on through talking to more and more people in housing stability through RCF is that housing really is a human right. That's like my biggest takeaway that I've understood. But I do want to hit back on, you said earlier that you never saw yourself working in housing.
Yeah.
Talk about, I guess your perspective coming in to the industry versus where you are right now.
I think I never saw myself working in housing because my impression of what housing was being a developer.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with being a developer. It just wasn't something that I was interested in. But then I just found my niche. I found what really pulled me into the space and what I really fell in love with, which is the complexity of housing stability, with home repair, with property tax foreclosure prevention, and seeing the opportunity to really shape the future of this work, and also knowing that every year this work is different.
Mm-hmm.
Every year there might be a Supreme Court decision that impacts how our work is done. There might be an administration change. There might be a pandemic. The work is constantly building, constantly evolving, and for me is ever interesting.
Well, you talked about the pandemic a little bit earlier. I'm just curious, how was, your job during that time?
That's a question.
People are like literally staying in their homes. I can't imagine, being on, the problem side of things.
Yeah, at that time, when the pandemic hit, I was working in the direct service. So and I was working in home repair. This was at United Community Housing Coalition. My day consisted of calling residents. When the pandemic hit, it was actually the busiest time ever for the work I was doing because we were just getting contractors out. We were working to make sure people had air filters in their home, and working to leverage as much home repair resources for the residents that we were working with at the time.
Mm-hmm. I want to go back to perspective and kind of twist it more towards people that are like my age. What would you say does a young philanthropist kind of have to have, in terms of soft skills and, the more technical skills to make it in this industry?
That's a great question. I think that it takes curiosity to first to just listen to residents, listen to organizations, listen to the city, listen to the partners, listen to all of the stakeholders to really, really get the sense of the world that you exist in and your role in it as a philanthropy. When you're listening, trying to pinpoint what exactly is the core issue, because people will tell you what's going on. They also might not tell you what's going on. Coming from a philanthropic side, people want to present a good face, but developing that trust through listening, through asking questions, through approaching through curiosity, I think is a really essential skill. And then being able to get to the core of the issue will help to direct resources to address those core issues. For hard skills, I think being detailed oriented is really important. We deal a lot with contracts, following up with organizations when they might be a little bit late on a report, just checking in. How is it going? What's going on? Do you need any support? I think being detailed oriented is really important as well from a skill set.
with the time that we have left, I do kind of want to talk about the future. I saw in a statement that you made, you asked a question of, who will be living in the same homes that are standing 100 years from now?
Mm-hmm.
Talk about, with that lens, how do you approach your work that you do with RCF?
I think it's really important to think of the residents that we work with today, and yet we are making capital investments into people's homes to ensure that they last the next generation and the next generation and the next generation. Each home in the city of Detroit, in the city of Cleveland, is a part of the housing infrastructure that we exist in. And it's essential that we preserve those homes because it's an opportunity for generational wealth. Two, it's a part of the neighborhood fabric. It creates the character of the neighborhood. People relate to these structures. It gives a sense of place. And three, the cost of building new far exceeds the cost of repair. So as we look to the future, preserving these homes for the next 100 years and who's going to be living in them is super important. And I hope that for the families that own the home today, their future generations are living in the home or still own the home in some capacity and see their neighborhood as their neighborhood is now.
Mm-hmm. Well, Gwen, thank you so much for coming on. And a little note to end off of Brianna Mason in our last episode. She made a note that said, this is heart work. Mm-hmm. And I will say it seems like your heart is definitely in this work. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And everybody, thank you for tuning in to the For More Forum. My name is Dominic Carroll. Have a great night.